Hello, everyone, and welcome to Twillow Talk. I am Tanis Coughlin from the Twillow Lifestyle Community, Twillow Lifestyle Academy. I am a Reiki master, and we have a mascot today. We have a familiar. Hey, Rob. And I am joined by
Hi,
our
Robbie.
guest, as well as Jen.
I'm second.
Jen.
Yeah,
Tell us
hi
about
everybody. I am Jennifer Jurkofsky. I am with Twillow Lifestyle as well as with My Holistic Self Counselling. And I'm a registered psychotherapist, certified Canadian counselor, intuitive life coach, Reiki master, minister, Sufi Al Kahina. You know, we go through them each time.
we do stuff. We do
you know,
stuff.
we do stuff. Right now, I'm a cat mama at the moment.
Cat mama. Mm-hmm.
Not to say I'm not a mama for all.
You're a mama in other ways too. So you got kids and all that stuff. So awesome. Yeah. So as is typical for our Twillow Talk episodes, we pick a card from this deck here, the Diana Cooper and Greg Stewart. And we will pick a topic and chat about it.
Yep.
And so that's what we do. And so, if you guys have questions or you want to come on and give us your 2 cents worth about the topic, that would be awesome too. So please come on in and join us, and let's see what we get today.
All right, sounds good.
Awesome. Goals.
Ooh,
a very 3D topic today. All right. So what do we have today? It says, when you have decided on your goal, clearly picture the outcome in as much detail as possible. Talk about it and feel as if it's already happening. Then you will radiate such an aura of certainty and success that others will pick up on your powerful energy and help you. Positive, focused thoughts combined with conviction and passion are an unstoppable force. Success is assured. However, wisdom guides you to enjoy the journey, as this is where your opportunities for personal growth lie. And our affirmation today, I enjoy the journey to my goal. So we have goals today. So that's an interesting one.
It is. It is.
I have mixed feelings about that.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, I almost put it back in. I'm like, no, I can't put it back in. That's not authentic. But I don't. I think that I would like to modify it a little bit. How does that sound? Why don't we talk about manifestation instead? Because that's kind of like having a goal.
Yeah. Well, and as you know, I have a bit of my own kind of take on that as well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and that's good, right? So let's talk about goals as they pertain to manifesting them.
Yeah, and I think I liked the affirmation of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So read that again for just a moment, if you would.
Absolutely. I enjoy the journey to my goal.
Yeah. And I think that, for me, especially in the work that I do, one of the things that I work towards with people is modifying that even more to say the goal is to enjoy my journey. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not about wanting things to be one way or another, but about being able to ride life, however it shows up, right? And can I be adaptive? Can I be resilient? Can I have the ability to ride the ups and the downs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And can I allow all of these things as part of my journey?
Yeah.
Right. And so the goal isn't about making a particular thing in the 3D be a certain way per se, but being able to navigate life in a way that is authentically us.
Right. So I guess it depends on your goal too. Because really, if the goal is to navigate life in a way that's authentic to us, then that's a reasonable goal,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because a goal is working towards something.
Yeah.
And so we can work towards all sorts of things that could be, spiritually related in terms of where they get us to.
Yeah. I think that the hard thing for goals for me is too often we set a goal with the idea that we don't have something. And
Oh, I see.
sure,
Yes.
like if you want to set a goal, like I want to save money to be able to buy a house, whatever. It's a very when you talk about like SMART goals, right? Like, can
Mhm.
you actually set a goal and have a measurable what is you are magical.
I had to share my mug.
I love it.
You gave it to me.
Sorry. Goals.
Sorry, I distracted you with my mug.
I know. It's all good. It's all good. I love the mug. Yeah, if we have like specific tangible goals that we want to, save for something or work towards something, maybe we want to be able to run a marathon, like whatever it is, it's fine. And I'm not saying that goals in that way are not okay. But I think that too often we think, oh, I want to have a house, but I want to have a family. And then I'll be happy when I get this or that. And
Yeah.
then that's my goal. My goal is to be happy. But really, you've decided that you don't have happiness right now. And that happiness is going to come from something external in the future. And that's where goals have a problem.
Right.
Right. So I think that that's a big piece to be understood, is that if you set a goal, that's fine. Is the goal, is it reasonable? Is it measurable? Is there, tangible marks to get through it? Then that's a goal. If it has to do with our happiness, our emotional well-being, anything like that, we have to recognize how to be that in the moment. Otherwise, it will always be something outside of us. And that's problematic.
Well, that's just a different way of going about the goals then, right? It's about making sure that our goals are not about the happiness, not about fulfillment per se, that we are already filled. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that we don't have struggle or that there isn't significant change that needs to be had.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to recognize that within us we have everything. Which is so interesting because I was looking at the transits for this week.
Yeah.
And it was so cool because right now we're moving into from tomorrow to the cat just fell from tomorrow to the 30th.
It's okay. No animals are injured in this.
No,
She's
she's
good.
the clumsiest cat I've ever had. And we're moving into purposefulness, but we're moving into the gate of totality. And really it's about like embracing all of what makes us who we are. So often we talk about like the shadow self and all of that. And the shadow part of this gate is really about going from one extreme of not being able to change and then to the other of not being able to commit, right? And so we're in this kind of flux between pleasure and pain, and we don't recognize the gift that can be in that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And allowing ourselves to embrace all of us, the whole aspects of us, our light and our dark, all of that is part of what is coming this week, right?
Yeah,
So,
I have a sense there's a lot of stuff coming up for people,
yeah.
in terms of to be cleared. So that would certainly go with that the feeling that our wounding is showing. And so how do we show our wounding compassion
Yeah.
and acceptance?
Yeah. Well, and the thing about this gift, right? This gift of totality, and I love again the way that Richard Rudd with the Genes Keys talks about it, is this idea of trusting,
Mm.
right? And when we really trust in life, right? In this experience, in the allness of what it is, So now I'm not talking about trusting in the 3D, but I'm trusting in the allness of this lived experience. We're able to embrace that totality,
Mhm.
right? And it's such a beautiful gift to have. And so when we think about goals in the sense of our spiritual journey, right, that goal is ever progressing in the sense of I'm truly coming back to myself over and over and over again, right? And so it is about embracing the journey.
It is. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's that famous quote, right? Life is a journey, not a destination.
Mhm.
So in that sense, goals are kind of about the destination and not so much about the journey. So
Yeah.
that resonates for sure. So we have someone saying hello. It's just coming through as Facebook user here on this end. Could you please let us know who you are? And maybe we have a few others there too. If you'd like to just say a quick hello with your name, please, that would be awesome.
Mhm.
And certainly if anyone else has anything to add to the conversation too about goals and what they mean for you and how they've worked for you. And, I mean, I've found, so coming from that business thing, right? The SMART goals, you brought up SMART goals. That's huge in business, of
Yeah.
course. And you have to have that to a certain extent, right? Especially in business, because you have to have a shared end goal, right? So that people can get on the same experience. Because otherwise, if you've got a goal here, you've got a goal here, then everybody's on different paths and they're not really, they're not on the same journey together, which as an organization, when you're a leader, you have to create that shared experience for people to go forward. Now, that doesn't mean that each experience is exactly the same, but there has to be a common thread that you all work towards in terms of that.
Yeah. And I think that comes back down to managing expectation,
Mm-hmm.
right? And making sure that everybody has the same expectation, that they're on the same page, and that they're heading in the same direction.
Right.
And, as far as goals go, that's really important,
Mm-hmm.
right? How many times do we have an expectation of one thing and the person that we're doing something with has an expectation that's different? We're not communicating that, and then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah. That's how all of our disagreements happen, really, right?
Mhm.
It's all about that.
Yeah, it really is.
So shared understanding is
Hmm.
a great goal for an organization.
Right.
To have that shared understanding to work towards in terms of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you think about it in that light, any goal that involves us working towards a more open, balanced well being,
Mm-hmm.
those are all things that come into authentic being. So, I mean, they're great. I think the problem becomes when we think I don't have this,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or I don't have the capacity for it. And so many times I've had, clients say, "Oh, well, I wish I was just a better communicator." It's like, okay, so what is blocking you from that communication, right? And it's often like a fear of vulnerability, or being the defense mechanisms that come up and get in the way and all of that. And so if we recognize our own stuff, then hey, that's a great goal, because now we know what we need to work on. Right, to feel more comfortable within ourselves.
And so what would you say to somebody then if it's like I have a goal to exercise more often?
Cool.
That would be a goal, right?
Sure. Again, and for me, it always comes back to, what's your narrative? What are you telling yourself?
Right.
Right? And so if the goal is to exercise, go for it. But if that one day shows up and you're like, oh no, I'm not going to do it, what are you going to do? Are you going to beat yourself up? Are you
Exactly.
going to tell yourself that you're horrible because you didn't reach your goal? Like, we have to be really careful when it comes to goal setting in that way. The goal itself, and right, I go back to Shakespeare, nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. The
Yeah.
goal itself isn't good or bad, but what we think about it is.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I've had this happen before where people have these goals. They want to exercise, they want to diet, they want to do whatever. And it's like, I have this goal to, have a particular weight or shape or whatever it is. Right. And they're doing this work. And it's really easy to say, I'm still not there.
Right.
And I won't be happy until I'm there. As opposed to, look at what I have done. I'm really proud of myself for what I have done. Right. And I think that that's the problem with goals sometimes is that, again, it's something outside of ourselves. It's something down the road. It's something not tangible
Yeah.
in that way. So, I've even had this where I've had clients break it down. And it's like every time you have a new milestone, you write that down.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we
And that's it.
celebrate our successes along the way.
Exactly.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But I think that we, as a people, have a tendency to be really hard on ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and to look to the negative and to be very self-defeating. And so this is where goals can be wonderful and also very damaging.
Yeah.
Right. And I know that there's a lot of really great different ways of dealing with thought and stuff out there that work for a lot of people. But one of the things that can be problematic is to just say to somebody, okay, well, just change your thought. You
Is
can,
that saying that their thought's not good enough?
right. Well, okay. So now my thoughts are bad. Okay. Well, I don't have control over them. I can't change them. So there must be something wrong with me. Well, if it's just my thoughts that are making me miserable, then I'm making me miserable. So I'm now damaged, right? Like you can see how the narrative could become really bad really quickly.
Yeah.
Right. And this is where and we talk about it so much, that observer piece.
Yeah.
I'm just the observer. These things come, they go. The thoughts are just thoughts.
Yeah.
I observe them and then I decide what I want to do with them.
That's right.
Sometimes I want to tell them to just bugger off.
Bugger off. Bugger off. I'm not paying attention to you today. Yes.
Right? Sometimes we have to honor them and do something about it. So it really depends from, one to the next, what that looks like. But to just say, change your thoughts, yeah, that's great. But how do we do that? And how do we do that in a way that is healthy and going to lead to success, not more self-defeat?
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's a challenge for all of us. I mean, being spiritual coaches, we look at that a lot with clients, and it's like you've got to show that self-compassion to ourselves, right? And that's the piece that I tend to dwell on a fair bit. Self-compassion in this process of moving forward, Yeah. Just wanted to say a quick hello to Estella. Hello. And we have Annie. Hey, Annie, how's it going? So our topic today is goals, guys, if you're just joining us. And we're just having a discussion about that and goals versus the journey. So just to give you a little update of where we're at. So when we talk about the spiritual journey, what are goals on a spiritual journey? I mean, you bring up often the know thyself as a goal, which I think is beautiful, right? That's very, very indicative of the healing journey or your spiritual journey, which for me, they're quite intertwined. But that's just my viewpoint. But because you do that is part of healing is getting to know yourself. That's the big part, right? Getting to know yourself and what your triggers are and where you're going with that and what kind of goals. So what's your goal? Is it to work through a certain number of triggers? Like I find that,
for you.
I don't like, to me, that's not the goal. So for what I do, it is more about let's have a goal of working on your journey and whatever that looks like today.
A lot of times when I give goals or homework or whatever with clients, it's really just work on observing. That's it.
Yeah. And
Just
maybe
work on
journal.
observing, right? And then we come back to that mindfulness piece, right? Can I be present in this moment without judgment, accepting it as it is? And I again, that John Kabat-Zinn, as if my life depended on it, right? Like there is that kind of piece here where, can I just be present with myself, with everything that's happening? Can I step back and be the observer of it? Right? Can I allow
the goal?
Yeah. Can I allow my mind to get out of my way?
Not listening to you today.
But it's such an important piece because, as far as goals go, this idea of know thyself, right? If I'm doing something and I'm triggered, I can perpetuate dysfunction really easily. I mean, we all can, right?
Yeah, of course.
And so, but if I know myself in that moment, I can go, oh, there's that trigger. Okay.
There's that thing again.
Right here, right now, I'm okay. What's going on with me? All right. When this trigger happens, I always get the same narrative. And I'm really mad at this person because they just don't care. Okay. Why am I telling myself that? Where is that coming from?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Because when I think that they don't care, then I have this wounded part of me that's coming up to feed. And this is where, right? And so we keep going, like that awareness piece. And it's like, okay, I'm actually going to choose not to feed you this time. Right? And now, wow, the doors have opened wide. What can I do with this now? Right?
Exactly.
And in that moment, if I can do something different, it's not the best answer. It's not going to be the way that I will do it forever. But in this moment, can I do something different and see where that takes me?
Yeah.
Right? And so, I say so much to my clients, open and curious. Be open and curious and just observe. See where that takes you.
Yeah. Like Annie says, thoughts limit our reality.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Thoughts, our egos get in the way, right? Our conscious self or our brain self gets in the way. We overthink things and we don't feel enough.
Yeah.
And I think that absolutely limits us in what we're capable of. Because it's our feelings that actually activate. Right? We have to feel something to move forward, to be motivated to do something. Sometimes it's, I feel like not doing this. But if we didn't have the feeling and then our brain kicking in saying you have to, then things that because we all have responsibilities, but that's more the 3D aspect of who we are, right? That's not that higher dimensional self, that inner light that shines, that makes decisions, right? And I think when we have goals, we should probably check in with our higher self when we're putting those in place, right? That higher self is that bridge between the physical soul part and the spiritual aspect of self. It's like it helps to bring that information down through the channel.
Well, and the mind loves goals.
Yeah, because it keeps it busy.
Yeah, for sure. And we can get so caught up in goal making that we never do anything.
Yeah, I've done that. Here, let's plan. We get caught up in planning, and then the execution is part of the problem, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, again, goals aren't necessarily good or bad, but I think the need to be open, to be curious, to observe, and to maintain flexibility is an important piece.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, because we learn every day. And when we learn, those goals might change. What if we learn that goal maybe isn't the best for us? Or in order to get there, we have to do X, Y, and Z, and X, Y, and Z really don't resonate? Can we find another way?
Maybe. Maybe not.
Or do we not want it enough? If we don't want it enough, then that changes the journey.
Yeah.
And your goal.
And I think that's the other piece too, is we can get so caught up in well, I said this, so I better stick to it.
Mm.
Right?
We're allowed to change our minds, folks. You are allowed to want something different.
Mm-hmm.
It's normal. It's human.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and I love the saying, we do the best that we can do with what we have in the moment.
Right. And we make the best decision we can with
Yeah.
whatever knowledge we have in the moment.
Right. But at any moment, that knowledge can change.
That's right.
And our capacity can change. And what we have access to can change.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's okay to change with all of that.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's so much transition right now, in the energies of the world, in relationships, in how we see the world, in our jobs, and how we show up. There's so much of that transition right now.
Yeah.
And we just have to be kind to ourselves during the transition, right? And not be, oh my God, I can't change my mind. Oh my God, I did this wrong, or I should have done it this way, or no, we just can't.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever there's change, there's a learning curve. And we have been through so much change in the last 3 years. I mean, if we were all children trying to learn how to walk, would we be hard on the child because they can't walk first try? And we make mistakes every day because basically, depending on the topic, you're a child learning to walk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That should have, could have, would have game. It's like, oh, let that go. Let it
We
go.
should ourselves to death.
Mm-hmm.
Should have done
Well,
that.
and the thing is, like we say, hindsight 2020. Okay, great. Yeah. But then if we did it differently, we don't know that the outcome would be what we think it is anyway.
That's right.
Right? And so, okay, I believe that could have been done better. Sure. Next time that comes up, I'm going to try something different.
Yeah.
Right? And this is where it's that just do something different and see what happens. And if that doesn't work, then, and this is a very 3-line thing. Okay. I'm a 1-3. That 3 trial and error. I embrace that. And I know that there's a lot of people out there who don't. And I get that. I really do.
For all those people that don't, that's who we're talking to when we say have compassion for yourself. Because the perfectionism thing,
yeah,
you're putting a lot of stress on yourself. You don't need to.
Yeah.
It's not what we're here for.
I find, and this is a me from my experience thing, and I do recognize that we are all very different, and that this does not resonate for everybody. But like an example of this was my partner and I were out. We were picking up something, and we were having a lot of trouble trying to figure out how to dismantle and take apart and everything else. And and he's very much a logical, I have to understand it. I want to go through and see everything, and I need to know it all before we get started. Problem is, we're there and we don't have the capacity to sit and study it. And I'm a trial and error, which is not at all the thing. And so I really appreciate the effort and the time that goes into prepping and all of that. But at the same time, there are times where, okay, we're in a crunch and we need to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I have found for me in my trial and error, and this is, again, like I said, this when I say 3rd line, I'm talking about human design stuff.
Do you want to maybe explain that, the different lines?
Yeah. So, well, I'll come back to that because I want to finish this thought.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is we learn each time we try something. And so sometimes, and this is very spiritual journey-esque in that we might not have all of the answers, and we might not know where we need to go or what we need to do next. But taking that step can often open it up for us so that we're able to really understand, okay, what's next. And I brought up that example because that was exactly what we needed to do. We couldn't figure it out by what we saw. So we had to start to move it. And when we started to move it, we saw the next step.
Right.
right? But we didn't know that that was even there until we started to move it around. So being able to experiment in that way can be really, really beneficial.
Right.
And so when it comes to our spiritual journey, the reason I say that really is in line with it is because sometimes it takes that leap of faith.
Mm-hmm.
We need to just try, right? And so bringing it back to goals, right? If our goal is to be open and to be curious and to allow messages to come in, then we need to get out of the way.
Yeah.
Right? And getting out of the way can look like taking that first step and just going, okay, show me what I need to see. And then seeing where we go from there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to grab my cord because my battery is about to die. And then I'll talk about the hexagons.
Absolutely. So yeah, so we often have that. We have to sort of take a step forward first, in order to be able to see the way. It's like you can't see the forest for the trees, so you have to kind of take a step in to see. Follow the path a little bit. What is that first step? I know a lot of times we get really bogged down in the planning, and that's kind of what we're doing, right? We can't see the next step because we're so bogged down in trying to plan it, and sometimes it doesn't make sense. And then we step in and we're like, oh, that's the piece it's like having a puzzle and you're missing a piece and you really want to get this puzzle together, but there's a piece missing. And how many times have you done a puzzle with a piece missing? Quite a few, actually. We get them at the garage sales. So anyway, I digress. Anyway, our lines, human design lines.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, crash course. We're all two out of the 6. So basically it's part of the I Ching. So if you have studied that at all, you might be familiar with it. But we have what's called the upper trigram and the lower trigram. And so 1 through 3 are part of the lower trigram and 4 through 6 are the upper trigram. And lower, it's not light, dark. It's none of that kind of stuff. It's just the way it is. So just to clarify that, because I know
without the good and the bad or any other value that you're putting on any of
that. There's none of that.
Right.
And so if you've ever seen, I've gone on with Tanis and Michelle for their Wednesday night readings every now and again, and I'll use cards and I'll talk about the lines and where things fall in that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm a 1-3, which basically means that I'm an investigator martyr, which means that I'd like to study and have all of the information in order to feel confident with moving forward. But I also am totally open to trial and error and figuring it out as I go.
Right.
But then there's also the 2, which is the hermit. They need to go inside. They need to take their downtime. They need to figure it out while they are in introspection and bringing that along, right? 4 is the opportunist. They need to network. And they're going to figure out what they need to do through their network. And things are going to come to them through their network.
Am I a 4? That feels right for me. If not, I'm a learned 4.
Well, there's all kinds of stuff, right? Like in one and then be transference into another. It's a lot. But yeah. And then 5 is the heretic. And 5 is the heretic, not because there's anything wrong in that sense. But they often have people projecting what they think they are on them. And then they get into this place of, I have to show up a certain way. And they can sometimes take on roles that are not actually adequate for them. And so there is this kind of component of really being clear with what roles you're willing to take on and what ones you're not, and how you show up there. And then the 6, which is the role model, there's actually 3 stages to it. So before 30, 32, oh golly, I should just know this, and I don't. I want to say 50, but maybe it's 60, maybe it's 50. I think it's somewhere around there.
50.
Yeah, 50 is what up on the roof is what they call it. And it's basically, so the first 30 years is the struggle period. And then up on the roof period is this kind of reconciliation, right? I'm putting it all together. I'm figuring out what all of that meant in my life and how I need to use that to move forward. And then the last part is actually the role model part. It's a very strong leadership part where you're taking all of those experiences and all of that introspection and then giving that for others. So there's a lot to it. If anybody's interested
cool.
in human design, let me know. I know I'm working on putting a class out through Twillow on it. But yeah, we're getting there. As far as goals and stuff go, know thyself. It is one of those tools that can be used to help us understand how we're wired, basically. But it's one tool, right? I know that there are some people out there that get very into human design and it's like, that's it. That's the only way. No, it's one way to know ourselves. I find it very useful. It's not everybody's way. So,
So this is another one actually that I've been playing with lately. The Mayan Oracle. And it's similar. They've got like the archetypal energies, and then depending on your birthday, like it's a whole calculation thing with your birthday and stuff, and you step into you're gonna fall. You don't want to see my desk right now. They step into you have these archetypes that come forward, similar to human design, but it's way less complicated. It's more I can't remember how many there are, but there's a certain number, and you have a combination, and there's 3 different parts to it, and you put them all together in different combinations. So you get a lot more information when you look at all the components together. But it's just another tool, right? For us to use. So there's like the Mayan Oracle, there's like the I Ching, human design, there's astrology, right? There's Vedic and Western astrology. These are all like sort of ancient things that have been brought down. There's a lot of Kabbalistic knowledge that you can gain through, or a lot of Kabbalistic knowledge that can help to get to know thyself, right? There's all sorts of tools, and that's the fun part of the journey, is delving into these tools and seeing where am I on this thing? Where am I on this thing? How do these match up? Where does that? So that's kind of the fun part.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing in all of it is, and I love the way that human design does talk about it in this sense, is it's an experiment.
Mm-hmm.
You have to try it and see what resonates for you. And some things are going to, and some things are not going to. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Don't take it as law. Nothing is law other than your higher self. and what, that inner knowledge and that connectedness to source, what that brings you, that's what's truth. All of the rest of it are just tools to help you navigate that, learn it, understand it, open you to it. But ultimately, it comes back to, can you connect? Can you get out of the way? Can you listen? Can you follow that, right? There's some surrender in that as well.
And being true to your style, because I know human design, there's certainly, when you have that knowledge about who you are, surrendering to, okay, it's okay that I'm doing that, and being more accepting, instead of taking it down the darker side where you're judging yourself for being that way. So that's an important thing to note too, because all of these things, you can judge yourself for being a certain way, and you really want to stay out of self-judgment.
Yeah. I find that's one of the beautiful things with so many different aspects, and speaking it from a human design perspective, really kind of understanding even just your type, right? Of the main types, understanding what that strategy is and understanding what your authority is. If you got nothing else out of it, those components are so important.
Yeah.
Right. And in doing that, you recognize, like, so for me, I'm a projector. So my strategy is to wait for the invitation. And with that comes recognition. And sometimes, people take that to mean you need to, tell me how awesome I am and then ask me to do stuff and then I'll do it. Otherwise, bugger off. And in a way,
you're awesome, Jen. Can you do this?
You know, it's about recognition all around. I
Mhm.
recognize where I am and my environment, which environment is also part of it, but like I put myself in my environment, and then I recognize when people show up in that environment that are on my fractal, that are in line with me,
Mhm.
right? And then I allow myself to be opened to being recognized, right? So I have work to do too. I can't just sit here twiddling my thumbs waiting for somebody to come find me. Life doesn't work that way. But in my willingness to open towards that recognition, somebody else can then come and recognize me and invite me to bring my skills to the table,
Right.
right? Whereas somebody who is a generator or a manifesting generator,
Which is
you know, they're responding, and they're responding to everything around them. So in that sense, like using Tanis and I as an example, I'm open to being seen by Tanis because I recognize that we're on the same fractal.
Mhm.
Tanis recognizes me and invites me to do things with her, like Twillow Talk.
I like here.
And here we are. I
We do
mean,
that a
I'm
lot.
like, right? But she was able to respond to what was happening in her environment that opened her to be able to see that, right? And so there is this kind of underlying dynamic that we don't always recognize. And so, for example, I'll have other projectors who say, I am so bitter, because that's what we get, right? We get bitter when we're not following our strategy. Versus, you know, some get angry, some get frustrated. We're all
We all
sorry, I
have our
have
stuff.
a hair and I keep trying to like get it off my nose. Anyway, there we go. Right. So, you know, when we think about that, okay, when I get bitter, I'm not following my strategy. It's not because somebody else is doing something that's making me bitter. I'm trying to jump in where I'm not invited to jump in. They're not accepting my information because they haven't invited me to give it to them. And now I'm bitter. That's on me.
Yeah.
Right? So it helps us to really have that know thyself component,
Mhm.
right? So my goal then would be to work on living my strategy
Mhm.
and recognizing my not self, that bitterness piece that comes up for me, and saying, okay, what am I doing to get myself here? And how can I resolve that within myself? What do I need to be doing?
Right.
Right.
So it's like it's like we often talk about being, we're not responsible for other people's actions or reactions. We're only responsible for our own, but we are responsible for our own. Right? So when we get angry and bitter or uh sorry, I got the peanut gallery talking to me here, or whiny is the word that came through. I was like, okay, what are you trying to say? Okay. So we get bitter or whiny. That's, it's our reaction, right? It's our responsibility to look after that.
Do you
I
need to
don't
be
know what's going
listening to
on out
something
there
right
today.
now?
What's that?
So do you need to be listening to something right now?
Apparently, yeah. Uh, I'll have to take care of that later on. That's my stuff. So yeah, I mean, we're all responsible, right? So our actions are reactions. Often it's the reactions
Mm-hmm.
that are tougher because we are triggered.
Yeah.
And we react. And so that's also our responsibility to do the healing work for that. How do we clear the energy that's holding us there? How do we do that work? And that's where you find people to help you
Mm-hmm.
if you don't know how, right? And then it's also, a responsibility to follow up on that and do the work. So,
Yes.
first step is finding how to do the work, and the other one is doing the work. And that is not always easy. There
Yeah.
are times when I don't want to do the work. It's work.
It's work.
But
Mm-hmm.
it's that labor of love, right?
Yeah.
And we know that we're being good to ourselves and those around us by
Mm-hmm.
doing our work.
And sometimes we will sit there and wallow in it until we can kick ourselves in the butt and say, okay, enough. And that's okay, right? Like, as long as we're able to make the change, again, going back to that self-compassion piece, don't beat yourself up over it.
No. We have a question here from a user. It just says Facebook user, so I'm not sure who you are, but asking, how do we clean the energy? There are multiple ways to clear energy. Visualization, there's things like Reiki, like Jen and I do. There's Ho'oponopono, which is something we both work with. Crystals and essential oils, and there's all sorts of different types of energy healing modalities that all help to clear the energy. So, you find one that works for you, and you find somebody that you resonate with. That
can you give us something specific that you want to clean, energy-wise? Is there
something that you have that you want to clear specifically?
If it's you, if it's a feeling or emotion, if it's a thing, if it's a place, like because they're all different, right?
That's right, yeah. And we would clear them in different ways. So that's why we're asking that.
Yeah.
So, and we don't have your name, so I can't address you directly. For some reason, we're still getting Facebook user. I think it has to do with privacy within a group, or, private group.
I have no idea. I still haven't figured out my Facebook either. That should be a goal of mine.
Well, and it might be when people are, because we're connected right now to a stream that's going into the Twillow Lifestyle Community Facebook group, and it's a private group. And because it's a private group, I'm not sure if the users will show up in there, because I think because it's private, right?
Oh, right.
So it may have something to do with that. We ran into that with the show that I do with Ramsey every second Friday, open mic. And I think we were running into that on Friday. So I'm not sure. I haven't solved it yet, and I can't change the group to public because it's already private. So,
speaking of Ramsey,
we have Ramsey coming on the show next week. It's going to be very exciting. We have a special Halloween show. I don't know whether we'll talk about Halloween, but we
it'll be a special show. The cards will decide what we talk about.
It'll be a fun show. Ramsey's great. You guys are going to love him if you don't already know him. And he's one of our teachers with the Twillow Lifestyle Academy. And he is a very talented medium. And so I'm sure he will be able to answer any questions. So we may talk about that kind of thing for a little bit, and then switch over to a topic or something like that. We shall see what they say. When we have guests, it's a little more open. We kind of, go with what the guest is wanting to bring in and all of that. Whoever this is saying, yes, I believe it's the privacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. So, so it should be a great show next week. So stay tuned. And I guess we're coming up to our 6:00 time. We had a little bit of a later start. Do you want to stay on for a few?
Bye. Yeah, I mean, I don't know who was asking about the energy. If you're still on, if you want to give us any kind of specifics or not. If anybody else has any questions or comments around goals, it'd be awesome to have some feedback. I know we kind of looked at it and went, goals, ooh, yeah. And then we talked about all of the things that we're kind of back and forth about in our own minds. So I don't know where everybody else stands on goals and how that looks for you, but yeah.
Yeah, it's it's an interesting topic in that, things, people have very varied opinions on that, like I said, the businessy people would be like, no, we have to have goals. And I'm more of a guidelines girl. Let's have some guidelines. We're going to have this guideline and work in that direction. But,
I mean,
everybody's different.
Even in that sense, like, goals are great, but we have to be flexible, right? Like, I always come back to that. We have to be flexible
and compassionate with ourselves.
Yeah.
I think that pretty much sums it up for us in terms of goals. That's how we feel. We feel we need to be flexible, adaptable, and self-compassionate
Yes.
about goals.
Passionate for others too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
When
even
we
if they
set
set
a
a goal,
goal
they
and
don't
so,
get it.
yeah, and then we're trying to explain our goal and the other person's not getting our goal and they've got a different goal and we're going back and forth and it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I always do this. Take the breath, find the pause, right? We talk about ways to clean energy.
I was
That'll
just
do
going to
it
say
for
that.
you. Like this very
Yeah.
simple way of cleaning the energy. Um,
Awesome.
yeah.
So can somebody let me know who this is? It's a pleasure to be in particular in your chat. Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you. Please let us know what your name is so that we can
Say hi properly.
hello properly or say thank you properly.
Yeah, exactly.
So, mhm.
But yeah, whatever your goal is, or whatever goals you're setting for yourself, I think that the first kind of question always needs to be like, is this for my higher good?
Yeah.
Is this moving me in the direction towards my authentic self? If it is, cool.
I just want to bring something up about authentic self too.
Mm.
Because are we setting goals? You touched on this earlier with the human design thing. Are we setting goals based on what other people want us to do?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we setting goals based on what we want to do? Are we setting goals based on shoulds? Or are we setting them on what we need or what we want?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's something to be cognizant of.
Actually, this is that's a really good one, Tanis, because with clients, I'll often do values work and we'll go through and we'll kind of look at what values do we hold for ourselves. And one of the exercises that I really love to do with people is, okay, now go through and which ones light you up and which ones are things that you just think you should have as a value, but don't really light you up. And it's amazing when we do that differentiating what actually comes up. Well, I should care about this, but I actually care about this.
Yeah.
This is what really brings me joy. And it's like, okay, so now let's take a look at that should. Where is that coming from? What's going on there?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so many times
I find this even with society values or norms. You know, norms don't. The society norms are not for everybody.
No.
And it doesn't make you deviant or wrong. It just makes you. Right?
Yeah. Well, I'm reminded of Gabor Mate and the myth of normal and talking about how society has a way of bringing it back to whatever society has as its normal, but there isn't really any normal. Right?
That's come up so much with COVID, right? People are saying, oh, I just want things to go back to normal. There is no normal, folks.
No.
We can make things better, but there's no normal.
Mm-hmm.
There never has been. That's an illusion. You know, we have a routine. If you want things to go back to your routine, that's one thing. But it's not what I would call normal, because, you know, our routine or our sense of normal, it's very much about it changes so much, right? Because we learn every day.
Yeah.
So our normal follows like what the norm adjusts as our learning adjusts.
Mm-hmm.
Our personal norms. Society gets stuck in old norms.
Yeah. It really does.
And we're not in that energy anymore.
Yeah.
We're in a very different energy now. Things are changing.
Yeah. It's so funny what pops into my head is one of my kids running around going, oh! One day that's normal, and the next day that's weirdo stuff. Mom, don't do that. Okay.
Okay. You don't like that today. Okay.
Right? And it's, and it's so true. And we, recognize that one minute we like something, the next minute we don't. And
Well, even how that comes obvious for me, if I've worked with essential oils, you could work with the same essential oil for like days at a time. One day you're going to pick it up, you're going to love it. Another day you might pick that up and go, oh, can't stand that today. And it's because you don't necessarily need it, right? The days that you want, you need it. And then when you don't need it, it's like, oh, okay, I don't need that anymore. Because our body reacts, right, to what we need and want. So
yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
awesome. Anyway, goals. How do we tie all that into goals? Norms. Make your goals for you.
Yeah.
Not for society norms, not for anybody else, but for you. And be compassionate to yourself and others when they're making those goals. Celebrate your successes.
There's a lot going on there we can tie together.
There is. What did I miss? I'm sure I missed a couple there.
I don't know. I go back to my mantra: be open, be curious, be observant. Just allow and see where it goes.
Follow the journey towards the goal, but enjoy the journey along the way. Yeah. Beautiful. Well, I want to thank everyone for being here, and a shout out to Estella. Thank you for being here, and Annie. And I'm sure we have a few others here that have been in and out. So thank you all for sharing your energy and your insights and questions. And we're really excited to have Ramsey on the show next week. Same time, same place. And we shall, so we will regroup and see you next week. So Jen, please tell people where they can reach you.
Sure. You can find me on my website, myholisticself.com or myholisticselfcounseling.com. Facebook, I never remember. I think it's at Holistic Self Counseling, or on Twillow. You can reach out and find me there as well.
Yeah, awesome. And you can certainly reach out and find me at twillowlifestyle.ca, as well as all of our other handles that you can see here at the bottom. And stay tuned for lots of stuff coming up with the Twillow Lifestyle Academy, and check out the new membership site. It's pretty awesome. We got lots of contributors. And take care, everyone. We shall be seeing you next week. Sending you all lots of love.